All right, guys, we're back. We're dealing with the second quadrant in our society. Again, just to kind of contextualize, this is a machine. And this machine, as of right now, is mainly producing thoughts out of the raw material of Homo sapiens, human beings. Second part of this is the quadrant, the collective consciousness. Collective consciousness, you may remember, is a term that's coined by Emil Durkheim. In some translations, it is translated as the collective conscience, and there's a kind of a hint about what its purpose is in the conflation of consciousness and conscience. It suggests a moral quality that exists kind of intrinsically when you step into our machine. Let me define collective consciousness for you to begin with. We are going to define it very simply as a society's shared beliefs. Okay, so we've got symbols up here, things that hold meaning. We have beliefs here. Beliefs being assertions about reality. So we're not talking about definitions anymore. We're not talking about this thing means this. We're talking about this is how reality is supposed to be. It's an assertion about reality that is a belief. Really importantly, in fact, I'm going to pause a moment to emphasize this. It doesn't mean the beliefs are right. So for a long time in American society, one of the beliefs in the collective consciousness, one of society's shared beliefs was that white people were superior to people of color. That belief in white supremacy, it's not a definition. Can you see the difference? We defined maybe whiteness as superior, but the belief that whiteness was related to blackness and brownness in a particular way was an assertion about reality. Now, on a test, because these ideas are very close together, I'm not going to ask you to differentiate between the two of them. Kind of try to just bear in mind that we might define whiteness a particular way, and we might define blackness in another way, and Latino-ness in a third way, and American Indian-ness in a fourth way, and those would all be like code attached to the skin color. But the belief in white supremacy is an assertion about reality, and it kind of implies how you should behave in the world. So, all of which is to say, the beliefs that exist in the collective consciousness might not be good, they might not be true, and none of that matters. What matters is what happens when you give a human being a particular belief, when one of the thoughts that they have is white supremacy, or as we talked about in the last video, that women should not get an education. What happens, what are the outcome patterns that happen when this person is put into a machine that produces that pattern of thought? Okay, so we've got the definition of the collective consciousness. It's society's shared beliefs. Beliefs are assertions about reality. They could be right, they could be wrong. And that is not something we're going to evaluate. All we care about is, at this point, as sociologists, all we care about is what are the consequences of holding those beliefs. When you step out of your role as a sociologist and enter your role as a person who is trying to influence society, which you absolutely should do, by the way. A sociologist in the role of sociology is trying to understand. But as a citizen, you absolutely should be saying, well, some of these beliefs are horrible. We should change them so we have a different machine, so we get thoughts and behaviors that are going to be helpful to people. But when we're in the role of sociologist, all we're trying to do at this point is understand. So it doesn't matter if the belief is, in our estimation, horrid. We are still just trying to understand, okay, so if you have this horrid belief, what are the consequences? What are the patterns that emerge because of that? That's what we've got up to now in this video. Third point of this is that this collective consciousness can be messy. Core beliefs in a society don't necessarily go together well. And in America, we have a sort of quintessential example of this, is we have the belief in equality. all people are created equal. Obviously, it didn't start out that way. It started out all men, and what they really meant was all white men. But we've kind of evolved it into the idea that all people are created equal. And if that's true, if that is a belief that I hold because I've stepped into this machine, it will imply certain behaviors. I should treat each person that I meet in exactly equal ways. But we also have the core belief in our society in individualism. And individualism suggests that every person is unique. And if every person is unique, should I be treating them all in the same way? My belief in equality suggests every person should be treated the same way by me. My belief in individualism suggests every person should get the treatment that is appropriate to them as unique individuals. And I'm not here to say which one's right and which one's wrong. In fact, in this entire class, I'm not going to tell you what's right and what's wrong. I'm going to tell you guys, think about this, come to your own conclusions. If I knew what was right and what was wrong, I'd have fixed everything by now. The idea here is that our collective consciousness, almost every person in America believes in these two things, equality and individualism. But those beliefs don't rest easily together. They lead in different directions. And so that's our sort of third point in this lecture. First point is the definition. Collective consciousness is a society's shared beliefs. Second point is that beliefs are assertions about reality. Third point is that these assertions about reality don't necessarily go all that well together, which would lead you, if you were thinking about this for a moment, you would say, well, gosh, we would probably have some conflict in certain situations. And of course we do. Those are called culture wars. Our culture wars, generally speaking, arise from the idea that this is a core American belief that should be applied in this situation, and other people saying, no, that's not the proper core American belief. In some situations, it should be equality. In other situations, it maybe should be the freedom of religion. And those two things lead to situations of culture wars, like whether we should have gay marriage or not, or should a person who bakes cakes for weddings be compelled to sell their cakes to a gay couple. And I'm not here to tell you what side of that you should land on. What I'm here to say is, well, yeah, of course we would have that. If you've got these couple of beliefs that don't go together all that well, there's going to be fights. All right. Fourth point about the collective consciousness is its purposes. So I told you the purpose of the symbolic universe was it defined reality for people. The collective consciousness has two purposes. The first purpose is that it tells us how we should live. If I step into this machine that tells me all people are equal, that implies how I should live my life. I should treat people equally. I should treat people regardless of skin color, regardless of gender, regardless of sexual orientation. That belief in equality implies how I should live. And this is where the collective consciousness is moral. It has a morality to it. The symbolic universe doesn't. It just says, this is what it is. It's like looking at a map. And you see all of the things that are on the map. Reality has been explained to you. The collective consciousness is like GPS. It tells you, okay, so yeah, there are all those things, but this is how you should go to where you are trying to get to. Where you're trying to get to is, I don't know, success, I guess, and happiness. But it tells you this is the appropriate way. This explains what reality is. This tells you how you should live your life. That's the first purpose of the collective consciousness. First purpose, to tell you how you should live. It gives you a moral sense. The second purpose of the collective consciousness is that it binds people together. The symbolic universe does this to a degree also, although in a much more minor, low-key kind of way. We all understand reality the same way. And because of that, we all know that, like, remember my stupid key example, we all know this is a key, and therefore if somebody else picks it up and, I don't know, tries to clean their teeth with it or something, we can mock them, and now we're bound together. Good for us. But in a deeper sense, the collective consciousness, the fact that it tells me we should treat all people equally, girls deserve an education. And I can look at you and we can agree on that. And when we are confronted with a situation like the Taliban stoning girls to death for wanting an education, we can say, God, that's not us. And all of a sudden there's an us. We as Americans believe this. And now we're bound together in a way. This is where obviously culture wars tend to divide us, but when we find that common ground, we're bound together and we hang together. And it's important. Social cohesion is important because, as I told you, I think it was last video or maybe it was the video before that, these thoughts and behaviors are not about your happiness. Society does not care about your happiness. And if it doesn't, what's the point? Well, we feel that there's a point because we're bound together with people. This collective consciousness is like an insurance policy. It keeps us held together because if we all decide, forget it, I'm going my separate ways, all of a sudden, you don't have a machine anymore. All right, that's good. So what we've got right now is we're halfway through. I got to finish this video because I'm at a little bit over 10 minutes, and that's not good. Last point. What we have now is half of our machine, and this half of the machine has a name. This half of the machine is called culture. Your symbols, your beliefs added together, those are culture. Culture's side is responsible for the thoughts that you have in your head. That's it for this video. I will see you next time, and we will start dealing with the other side of our machine.